crashing at Japan's home islands in 9 days of continuous bombardment.
The U.S. had a choice, an invasion of Japan requiring 1 million troops.
In the aftermath of atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, the world was forever changed.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy.
And as a custodian of nuclear power, the United States aimed to closely control the expansion of nuclear atomic technology. But in the middle of these global nuclear restrictions, one man dared to dream of a potential future for India, and he is none other than our legendary and visionary scientist, Dr. Homi Jehangir Bhabha. His relentless pursuits of knowledge laid the foundation of India's atomic dreams, and in spite of all the challenges he faced, he established the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. This institute is the hub of scientific exploration that would become the backbone of India's nuclear journey. But the shockwave of history did not cease. Dr. Homi Bhabha was faced with a harsh reality in 1962 as India and China got into a war.
Exceeding bad dream, and yet it remains embedded like a terrible festering scar on a young nation.
And that conflict pushed him to shift his focus from scientific pursuits to national security. After recognizing the urgent need of nuclear deterrent, he initiated India's nuclear program, defying international norms and restrictions. And world watched as Homi Bhabha's vision began to take shape. But before he could see his dream fully come true, a tragic event shocked our entire nation. On 24 January 1966, a shocking plane crash claimed the life of Dr. Homi Bhabha, the man who has dedicated his life to shaping India's atomic destiny and who has dared to change global norms to safeguard his homeland, was gone. But even after giving so much contribution to our country, not everyone knows about legendary Homi Jehangir Bhabha and his contribution. Because as much as we taught about our independence revolutionaries like Subhash Chandra Bose, Bhagat Singh, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru and so on, and about their significant contribution to the independence of our country, at the same time, knowingly or unknowingly, we are not taught about the sacrifice made by our bright scientists who gave their entire lives for the development of our country. Which is why in this episode, we will going to dig into an important chapter of our history about Homi Jehangir Bhabha. And in this episode, we will discuss 1. Who was Homi Jehangir Bhabha? 2. What are the legendary contributions of Homi Jehangir Bhabha toward the development of our country? 3. How did Bhabha's vision impact the India's security and scientific landscape? And 4th, what are the impact of Dr. Bhabha's death on India and scientific community? On 30 October 1909, Homi Jehangir Bhabha was born into a wealthy Parsi family. His father was a well-known lawyer, and because his family did not lack money, he was given all the facilities. He studied in Bombay's best schools, and Homi has developed distinct qualities even as a young child, because most of his time was spent reading or experimenting with physics and mechano. At the early age of 15, he passed the senior Cambridge examination, and in 1927, when Bhabha was 18 years old, he went to Cambridge University to study engineering. But Homi was not interested in engineering. Even studying engineering from Cambridge wasn't Homi's choice. This choice was made by his family. Homi Bhabha was interested in physics, and a place like Cambridge gave him the advantage where Homi discovered his real passion for physics. And he was so passionate about the physics that he convinced his father for change his course from engineering to physics. So after completing his mechanical engineering course in 1930, he immediately enrolled for physics PhD program under R.H. Fowler. and that's how Dr. Bhabha's journey started in nuclear physics. There, he has done a lot of research in physics, won many fellowships, and worked with many renowned personalities like Niels Bohr, Wolfgang Pauli, and Enrico Fermi. While pursuing for PhD, Bhabha wrote his first ever article about the absorption of cosmic radiation, and this was published in 1933. And during 1934 to 1936, Homi was awarded for the Isaac Newton Full Scholarship for the PhD he was pursuing. And finally in 1935, Bhabha completed his PhD degree. Then in 1937, he was again awarded by a senior studentship of 1851 exhibition. But when Homi Bhabha applied for a position at University of Rawalpur, James Chadwick rejected his offer. Later, in summer of 1939, Bhabha came to India for a holiday vacation. He hoped that after the holiday, he would come back to England. But while Homi Bhabha was in India, World War II broke out in Europe.
Enemy bombers travel at hundreds of miles an hour. Every town is a target. Any town is a target. This is Nottingham.
The fateful hour of 11 has struck, and Britain's final warning to Hitler having been ignored, a state of war once more exists between Great Britain and Germany.
On September 1, 1931, Germany invaded Poland that triggered war in Europe, and that changed everything. Due to the war, movement in Europe was restricted, especially the scientists could not enter each other's labs or cross the borders. And if you remember, that was the time when countries like United States, Britain, Germany and USSR were conducting the scientific research to develop the nuclear bomb. And because of all the chaos due to the World War II, Homi could not go back to England. Then Homi had no option but to stay in India. So Bhabha started contacting physicists in India, and one of the all-time well-known physicists, C.V. Raman, offered a job to Homi Bhabha as a professor of physics at Indian Institute of Science in 1939. Later on, Homi Bhabha set up Cosmic Ray Research Unit with funds from Dorabji Tata's Trust in 1942. And IISc is a place where Homi Bhabha also met Vikram Sarabhai. On March 12, 1944, Homi wrote a letter to Sir Dorabji Tata Trust about the low standard of applied research in India and his desire to build an advanced physics research university. And that's how Tata Institute of Fundamental Research was established in June 1945 with Homi Bhabha as a founding director and professor of physics. It was also
from J.R.D. Tata, there was born in 1945 the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, more popularly known as TIFR.
It's the time when Indian national movement was become more and more powerful, and it was obvious that British would soon leave our country. So Homi Bhabha, who was waiting to stop the world war so they can go back to the England, according to scientist M.G.K. Menon, during his 5 years at IISc, Homi Bhabha found his mission in life, and Homi had changed his heart and started to consider how the scientific research in an independent India could help to shape our nation. As India got independence in 1947, every corner of country was celebrating independence. Here Bhabha was busy with his research, and in a short period of time Bhabha wrote a letter to Prime Minister stating, or you can say arguing, that within the next couple of decades atomic energy would play an important part of economy and industry of countries. And if India did not wish to fall even further behind industrial advanced countries of the world, it would be necessary to develop this branch of science. In 1947, Nehru understood the importance of nuclear energy program and approved the idea of creating a Commission of Atomic Energy. This committee was created with no delay in August 1948 itself by parliamentary legislation, and Bhabha got an opportunity to serve as Commission Chairman. As Bhabha was appointed the chairman of Atomic Energy Committee, along with that, Bhabha was also experimenting with balloons for cosmic ray research. Initially, he was using rubber balloons, but they could not fly far. So, Homi shifted from rubber balloons to plastic balloons, which was primarily imported from US, and US was the sole exporter of the plastic balloons. But after the World War II, the US banned the import of plastic balloons. Initially, Bhabha faced the challenges, but eventually he came up with an idea of producing India's plastic balloon for further cosmic ray research in TIFR. On April 1948, Bhabha designed 3026 cubic meter plastic balloon which can hold up to 57.5 kg weight and go up to 25 km above sea level. And in just 1956, around 60 balloons were launched from Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi and Srinagar by TIFR. While working on balloons for cosmic ray research, Bhabha was also aware of the need to plan for growing energy requirement for developing nation. He visioned developing nuclear energy as a long-term solution to meet India's growing energy need. So, in 1954, he conceived a three-stage plan for nuclear self-sufficiency. First step was to design a uranium fuel reactor whose spent fuel rod would yield plutonium. Next was to construct second-generation plutonium fuel reactor that would convert thorium into uranium. And final would be the third generation breeder reactor using thorium and uranium. This program was designed to use India's large thorium and small uranium reserve. And because India had limited domestic uranium resources, so in 1955 Homi made a deal with the UK to get the uranium for building India's first nuclear reactor at Thromby. And within a year, in 1956, India built Asia's first swimming pool reactor called Apsara.
In just over a year, Indian scientists and engineers, working entirely on their own, designed and built Asia's first reactor.
Your attention all personnel.
Our first nuclear reactor.
And apart from nuclear energy development and TIFR, Homi was largely responsible for introduction of Indian space program through setting up Indian National Committee for Space Research in 1962 under the chairmanship of Dr. Sarabhai. But because of security concerns between India and China in the early 60s and the war between India and China in 1962 has changed Homi's interest from nuclear energy to national security.
Independent India was a tender 15 years old when it was humiliatingly crushed by a far more focused, far more relentless adversary, China.
Because not only China won the war, but China also conducted its first nuclear test successfully. And after that, Homi Bhabha recognized that nuclear technology could have both civilian and military applications. So, on October 24, 1965, Bhabha announced on All India Radio that in 18 months, India could have a nuclear bomb from the plutonium Indian reactor had produced. He believed that it is essential for India to have a strong nuclear capabilities, not only for the peace purpose but also for ensuring the national security. But something went wrong in the early of 1966 that scattered all the expectations. Air India aircraft was traveling from Bombay to New York on January 4th in 1966. Bhabha was traveling in that plane and that plane crashed in the halfway in the French Alps. And in that crash, 117 people were killed, including Homi Bhabha. And it has been more than 50 years, but still no one knows the exact reason why that crash happened. For India and India's scientist community, it was a big shock. Though India was able to make its first nuclear test, codenamed Smiling Buddha, after 8 years on May 14, 1975 in Pokhran, Rajasthan, but Homi Jehangir Bhabha's death was a loss for India's fast-growing development, India's scientific community, and for our country as a whole. And we could not fulfill that.
Coupled with a doubling of the world's population within the next 100 years, which is the least that we can expect, this would exhaust the known reserves of fossil fuels in under a century. It is in this simple arithmetic, no allowance has been made for the fact that the standard of living of the industrially advanced countries is rising and we hope will continue to rise.